feather, light, work, asking, answer, accepting, honoring, all we are, earth to star. And it felt so good to access that. Again, another area of subtlety is checking in with ourselves. Sometimes I like to have a partner to check in with my well-being, give myself some self-care, self-love by talking about processing verbally what's on my mind, what's on my heart. Sometimes I hold it internal and I process it in my mind. That's a subtle way of showing myself self-care and self-love. If I don't do that though, if I neglect that part of me that wants to be acknowledged, that part of me that wants to process, whether I do it substantially or subtly, then I might suffer the consequences of not processing that. And I might be numbing out to what's real. And I really feel we have to feel it in order to heal it. So sometimes I make grandiose gestures, speak aloud my truth. I might pray with tobacco smoke. There's a time and a place for substantiation too. Understanding what subtlety is and the gift of subtlety almost requires that we also explore substantiation, so we can kind of juxtapose those and contrast them, because there definitely is a time to raise our voices, to project our singing voice into the world, blast our visions into the world and share them with putting them in a canvas, creating a big mural. I love it when artists substantiate their ideas that way. You know, we can play with those subtle ideas in our minds, but it's only when they're substantiated that they're in a shareable format that is copyright protected, for example. So there are times when we want to substantiate things. Sometimes we might be asking for something big from the world, and so we have to put ourselves out there in a big way. And there are times when the quiet, gentle, sensitive approach is the fastest route to what we want. So do you have other examples, Audrey, of, worldly experiences that are greatly served by us taking a subtle approach?
Yeah, absolutely. For one, I feel connecting with ourselves, and some people will call this meditation, and just going inward and being able to be real quiet. And I think that's a really strong contrast to what most of us are used to on the day-to-day. Waking, rising, getting ourselves set up, cleaned up, presented, ready for work, going to work, taking clients. And even if we're not working, maybe we're, shopping or taking care of ourselves in that way by going out into the community and doing the things that we need to do. So it's a constant moving and there's constant noise, but by being in that space, like a meditation space, we're choosing to anchor and ground and quiet not only our minds, but our voices, quiet our eyes. And so we're going inward to receiving information in a really, really subtle way. And that's really, really the starting point, acknowledging that that's important, doing and starting and practicing that practice is a perfect gateway. Meditation is a perfect gateway to start to really receive information, really understand how it's coming in for us, and give us this opportunity. And sometimes people will struggle with being able to focus or not being able to clear their thoughts. I mean, this is a state of mastery and continuing to dive in and continuing to make this choice, whether it's every day. I know Cabe has recently committed himself to meditating pretty much every day. And it doesn't have to be anything other than just being quiet and being still and being in received mode. But that's a really great way of something being super subtle and being able to receive the subtlety of that.
Yeah, some of the gifts that we can identify from meditation include peace of mind, quieting of overwhelm,
breath,
sense of security.
Yeah, working with the breath is another way to work in that subtle landscape. But I'm just talking about slow, deep breathing. When we take really long inhales in really long exhales. It's a very subtle, slow way of being present with your breath. And it's a really beautiful way of this technique actually will activate your nervous system to relax. So essentially, parasympathetic nervous system is when our nervous system is in a relaxed state. So working in that way with a slow, soft, subtle breath is going to actually soothe and nourish our nervous system. So that's another way, another subtlety. You can kind of look at subtlety in a real literal way when you're cooking. You don't want to add too much salt as you're going. You put a little bit in at a time, a little bit in a taste, and a little bit in a taste. And that way is like a really subtle way of developing flavors. And so that's another really beautiful way that we can not only entertain our senses, but also move through it at a slow pace. And
that's a good example. And that's exactly what I want to do next is identify, compare and contrast a subtle versus a substantial way of experiencing our 5 earthly senses. So let's begin with taste, since you mentioned that. If we're overpowering a dish with too much sour, then we might suffer the consequences of a extremely sour meal, right? But a subtle hint of lemon can really spruce up a guacamole, Just the right amount of salt is desirable. Sometimes we have a desire for savory, sometimes we have a desire for sweetness. So checking in with what we're leaning in toward, what feels most resonant, is a good way to, gauge what's ideal for us in any moment. So that's a subtle energy, leaning into what we're choosing. Let's talk about hearing. Sometimes, like I said, people want to yell at each other and they think their voice is going to be heard if they're yelling. But I witnessed that yelling creates distancing on the other end, whereas gentleness and sensitivity and a whisper, quieting of the voice, invites the other person closer. Can you think of other examples?
Yeah, absolutely. When we're working with music, and music is a really beautiful tool. It helps shift our energy, our frequency within our body. If we're listening to something just a little bit in the background, like a nice, soft, classical, or even producing the music, a subtle, soft hum, just kind of having that a little bit present, we can bring that frequency in. We can embody that in a really subtle way. The exact opposite of that is listening to music really, really loud, and all you hear is the music. So, and then you just become part of the music almost, and it kind of almost washes your existence out. And I can see how there could be benefit in that moment. Maybe we're going through something rough. Maybe we need to feel held and feel supported in a big way. So loud music will really hold us and really kind of consume us in that way and help us navigate things or move through spaces that maybe are overstimulating. Multiple people talking and all that stuff can be really overwhelming. So if I'm wearing headphones, it kind of drowns out what's going on. Now that's not subtle in any way. That's a major shift and a major choice to choose something dominating and substantial, but it's also something that could serve to choose something in a space, like if I was having to go to like H-E-B or the mall or Walmart that otherwise may be extremely overwhelming. The opposite end of the spectrum may be just going for a walk where no one is and humming and just being real subtle with my creating the sound. Or also another way to receive something subtle is to just put some music in the same headphones, like really, really low and barely existent.
Yeah, so we can, extend this practice infinitely toward visions. Visually, there's big, loud, there's big, loud colors, there's big, loud size of art and advertising. If our goal is to connect with an audience out there through our art, through our music, then we have to bring the appropriate exertion of energy in that direction. And same, when we want to connect inward, we can make these big, loud, grandiose gestures to connect with our higher self. Where are you, God? From the mountaintop. Or that subtle, asking that same question. And there might be a path that's greater for us than the other.
There's a lot of different ways we can play with this understanding of subtlety versus substantial. But the reason why we're bringing this to our attention is to just solidify and crystallize that we can all play in this realm of subtlety. And by inviting that in and getting quiet and making space for something like this, we can all sharpen our tools with our mediumship. We can all work in the way of being this receptive radio tower by slowing it down and basically creating space. And by creating space, we can be more attentive, more allowing, and really take in some of these subtle frequencies that we may have been totally unaware of or completely numbed out to in the past. There's so much there on the spectrum. Even if we talk about color and seeing colors and what we're able to see versus what's actually available to us, that we may not be able to see, like on the light spectrum. There's a total spectrum of light that we're not physically able to see that's in existence. So if we can understand this and know that it's available for us in sound as well, there's a way to be able to anchor in and continue to experience this. So I think the environment is the primary key. I think we're going to tap in and we're going to start to create and strengthen this muscle around receiving subtle frequency and receiving information and communication from beyond the veil with these different communicators that work in this realm. And this is in the way that they communicate. We need to just carve out space for that, carve out time for that, to hold a space of almost nothingness, a meditative space, and allow ourselves to calibrate to less obvious noise.
Okay, so let's begin this practice now. I want to invite us to experience our own subtle energy. So this is a fundamental way to do that. This has been demonstrated to me. I'm going to, pass the torch to you, and this will be an easy access point to feeling your energy. This friction, simple motion of rubbing our hands together creates friction and creates warmth. Feel a lot of warmth, and that warmth radiates energy that can be felt. That energy can be, pointed in the direction of our choosing, including right here, to bless ourselves up with our subtle energy. I'm touching my heart, I'm touching my gut, I'm representing my choice, my willpower to love myself, to show myself love. So creating energy, I can point it here, I can point it toward my ears, readying myself to listen, preparing myself to hear the voice of God in me.
So I want to take our attention to our hands. So we're back to what Kay was saying. We're generating this energy in our hands. And as we separate the hands, I want to take our attention to what our hands feel like. What are we experiencing? Is it tingling? Is it soft? Is it sharp? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it intense? Is it in our palm? Is it in our fingertips? We go into this state of examination. We're getting real slow and real grounded in just exploring and examining what we're experiencing. So as we're able to do that on our hands and have this understanding and feeling that there's something actually happening and feeling that energy, Kate makes a great point. So it's like two-part process. We're actually experiencing it and acknowledging that there's a ton of energy in our hands. But he's taking us to the next level. Now we're able to use and receive this energy. So we're talking about almost like two different things. We're acknowledging that we're able to create this, and we're actually experiencing the energy that we create by getting quiet and experiencing it and making space for that to happen. And then we're actually taking it to the next level and becoming our own energy medicine practitioners and then gifting ourselves the energy that we're creating. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a good reflection. So, and if you have a partner with you, you can exchange the energy, and that magnifies the effect of imagining and actualizing that energy exchange. We can play this game in a lot of different ways. We can dance with chi.
This is a really good way to actually feel that energy even better, being able to feel your partner's energy. We can feel the ball that he's transferring. We just slow down and experience that. Or I can start to experience his energy, getting really close. And so what's happening for me in this moment is my hand is tingling. The palm of my hand is really, really warm right now. And I'm starting to feel through my fingers these tingles, almost like little sleepy tingles. So I'm experiencing Cabe, his energy body in my physical body by actually experiencing it, by like feeling it. So this is, again, we're slowing down and just experiencing what's there. What's there already.
Of course, this art of subtlety has massive positive consequences in lovemaking, right? A lot of ways to make love. Sharing subtle energy is a really fun, wonderful way to connect. And let's apply this. So this is feeling energy. Let's talk about hearing energy. Because if I say the word sparkles, ways, sparkles, I can sing it. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. But what if I say it like this? Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. A lot of different feelings. Sparkles are a subtle energy. Sparkles are not asking for all this attention. They're just existing, glistening on the surface of the water. It's almost like an aftermath of an aftershock of looking at a bright light. Sparkles. They don't call too much attention to themselves. We do see sparkles in the fire, and they fly as embers. Sparkles, sparkles. Sparkles show up in a lot of different ways. They have a lot of different characters, and there's a subtlety to them. So I can say, scream from the mountaintop, I love you! I love you, Dad! I've done that. I love you, Dad! I miss you! And I can say, that practice of subtlety, now I'm feeling something. Now, with that subtle, massive inhalation, I was able to feel something. I was able to feel something of connection. Yelling, blasting my attention out felt less connective than inhaling with my intention that desire to connect with my dad.
Can I speak on this?
Yeah.
He's meeting his dad in a way and realm in which his dad can communicate with him. So even though after a long time of developing this gift, sometimes we actually can hear, but what I believe we're doing is we're actually interpreting the frequency, and we're speaking in a telepathic way. Even when we're hearing it audibly, and a lot of times we hear spirits speak audibly in our own voice, but what's actually happening is our mind, our brain, our body, our being is translating an energy that's showing up. It's almost like a heart-to-heart communication. Our loved ones that have passed don't have vocal cords. They don't actually have throat boxes. Like, that's not actually, a thing. Even though, like, sometimes we can hear them, I think what's actually happening is our senses are just moving so fast. Our claircognizance, our knowing, a clairaudience is translating for us so that our cognitive mind can hear and interpret and and understand. So what Cabe's doing by communicating in such a subtle way, he's meeting his dad on a plane in which his dad can communicate also. So, and also too, I think this is this level of managing expectations. When we're navigating clairaudience, sometimes we like expect to like hear our loved ones like talk directly to us. Hello, Cabe. And sometimes it's not necessarily going to come in like that. I mean, there has been times it can, and we can hear it. But again, what I think is happening is our mind is decoding or translating what we're experiencing in the frequency. So when Cabe shows up for his dad, like, and speaking from his heart, it makes so much more of an impact because it's slowing him down and he's able to really like receive on the same level. He's meeting him where his dad is at instead of like shouting and hoping for that in return. So it's like way more powerful because dad's actually there. Dad's actually communicating with Cabe. So he's actually in that space that's actually happening rather than we're shouting out and like straining to try to hear something. He's meeting his dad in that realm energetically.
I think metaphorically, we're talking about meeting someone where they are, tuning into the frequency of another person in another place. Like, for example, birds speak. When we speak to the birds, we don't say, "Hey birds, it's time to sing together." Expect them to sing our song with us. No, we replicate what they're doing with their voices. Some birds are so smart, they can communicate back and forth. We can have back and forth dialogue with the birds. And so, "Caw, caw," is the way to approach a crow. We're speaking the same language as a crow. I communicate with eagles in my mind through this eagle cry whistle. Psst. One time I was walking in the desert and I crossed paths with a mourning dove. And when I went to try to communicate with the bird speak to the dove, I said, "Psst." But the eagle to the dove is a predator. When the dove heard my bird call, rolled his head like as if guy and flew off. It was funny, it was cute. I don't think the dove was offended. I just think the dove was like, this silly human thinks he can talk to me like that. But other animals and, people, they have their way of communicating, and to approach them means that we have to speak their same language. So if we go visit Brazil, we got to understand the custom. Bom dia, we got to say hello in their way. Can't say howdy. Don't know what we're talking about. The bees, we don't say hi bees. I mean, we can intend to communicate that way. They might be acclimated to human speak, but we can also be like, bzzz. That bee sound is one of those interesting, subtle frequencies that I feel the vibration of, and it charges my system. It like recharges my system. It like sets me up to be able to buzz and hum and feel good in my body. Bzzz. There are other sounds like that too, other subtle sounds. Om. There are 7 in Kundalini Yoga that are associated with each of the chakras. Vam, Lam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om. Each of these can be sung in different tones. It's just the subtlety of it is an access point to something miraculous.
And that's exactly what the subtlety is. It's an access point to something miraculous. When I'm grounding for myself, I offer you this invitation. If this resonates, I offer you to utilize this in whatever way you need to, but especially with grounding. I see our core as a crystalline quartz garden. a beautiful base for me to connect in my infinite field, my multidimensional field that expands and expands and expands. And sometimes I just need that home place in this space of density, in this space of earth, in this space of texture. So grounding all the way down and anchoring myself, my soul, my spirit into this beautiful quartz garden. And I tuck a little part of myself down in there. And sometimes I'm really feeling the waves and the movement. And I'm definitely a sensitive. I definitely have sensory. And sometimes it's just so much around me. So I'll anchor down and I'll use a ship anchor. I envision my hematite anchor connecting down into that quartz garden. My connection, my strength, my safety is in this quartz garden sometimes. So connecting down, all the way down and coming all the way back up and letting myself expand all the way back up through all the layers, being firm and footed and rooted in my sacred environment, in sacred Gaia, in sacred Pachamama. Coming all the way back up to my heart space with all of that yummy, delicious nectar that's holding me, that's providing me with everything and anything that I need. Coming all the way back up through my earth star chakra, 9 inches below the earth, in between my feet. Coming all the way back up, connecting into my root chakra, allowing me to feel safe, allowing me to be provided for, allowing me to allow all of my blessings into my sacred environment, into my sacred vessel, into my sacredness that is the temple of my being. Allowing that all the way up through the sacral, into my solar plex, into my heart space, my massive illuminated heart space. This is such a special place. Us as humans, our biggest flex is this heart portal. This is only my opinion. Our biggest flex is this heart space, this sacred portal that can transform, transcend, and elevate any frequency that we can create, experience, or take on from others back to that sacred place from which we came, unconditional love. No matter what we're experiencing, no matter what we're navigating, we can come home to this illuminated heart space and transform anything. Period. We all have this sacred capability, and that as humans is our biggest flex. Walk around all open-hearted, taking on those lower frequencies and transforming that back to unconditional love. That is how we rise together. That is how we lift the frequency of this whole planet into this new earth, into this sacred beginning, the sacred allowing of that which is natural. We don't need to know how to do this. It just is. We are simply capable of. So the invitation here is, as we part tonight, as we separate ways, as we move out into the next phase of whatever, we can always come back home. We can always transform in this sacred heart portal back to unconditional love. Allowing that energy to come up into our throats, our sacred connection, into our third eye, our sacred vision, into our crown, our sacred connection to the divine beings we are, the divine beings we commune with and exist with and ignite with. Just sending some sacred love of our own self to our own self through this whole sacred chakra system. And connecting back up one more space with that beautiful, yummy earth energy is our soul star chakra. I personally feel like we don't talk about this baby enough. This beautiful soul star chakra with all of our knowing and all of our existence. We signed up for forgetfulness when we came to earth, but it's all right there. It's all right there, living, breathing, existing in our multi-dimensional essence that is us. All of our parts, all of our memories, all of that ever was, all that is now, and all that ever will be, we carry with us always in all ways. There's nothing we need outside of ourselves. We choose to experience community. We choose to commune and create love always in all ways. Taking a big deep breath and inhaling the essence of unconditional love and what we've created here tonight together. All the way up and exhaling at your convenience. And we'll do this a couple more times. Yes, perfect. With some sound and inhaling and exhaling for some sound. Ah. And one more time because 3 is a charm. And exhaling. Ah. Coming back into our bodies and wiggling our toes and our fingers and arriving. And as we open our eyes and come back into this room, the invitation here is join me by creating the intention of opening your eyes into your highest timeline for ways in which you walk that you've never walked before in unconditional love, always and always. Hey, ah. Shoo, shoo.